This is an article that came out in the San Marco Daily Record. Census 2030 may mark demographic tipping point. The year 2030 marks an important demographic turning point in U.S. history, according to the U.S. Census 2017 national population projections. By 2030, all baby boomers will be older than 65. This will expand the size of the older population so that 1 in every 5 residents will be retirement age. The age of baby boomers mean that within a couple of decades, older people are projected to outnumber children for the first time in U.S. history, said, okay, it's just some expert, okay. So by 2035, there will be 78 million people 65 years old or older compared to 76.7 million under the age of 18. The 2030s are projected to be a transformative decade for the US population. The population is expected to grow at a slower pace, age considerably, and become more racially and ethnically diverse. Net international migration is projected to overtake natural increase in 2030 as the primary driver of population growth in the United States, another demographic first for the United States. You ain't got that many damn immigrants coming here. I know y'all trying to act like you do. You really don't. And we know you're running the Mexicans out of here. Okay, in 2030, we project that the US will add about 1.1 million people through net international migration, but only about 1 million people by natural increase, or more births than deaths. Although births are projected to be nearly 4 times larger than the level of net international migration in coming decades, a rising number of deaths will increasingly offset how much births are able to contribute to population growth. Between 2020 and 2050, the number of deaths is projected to rise substantially as the population ages, and a significant share of the population, the baby boomers, age into older adulthood. As a result, the population will naturally grow very slowly, leaving a net international migration to overtake natural increase as the leading cause of population growth, even as projected levels of migration remains relatively constant. You know what? I'm not trying to be mean, but the quality of immigrants that come to this country are really the low end people. And I'm being for real. Many of them don't have even a high school education, or even the ones that come over here from Eastern Europe. They haven't gone beyond high school. I mean, that's the kind of immigrants that this country attracts. They're not getting the cream of the crop. They're getting the ones that were barely getting by when they were living in their own countries. That's the kind of immigrants that come to America. I mean, seriously, y'all, if you seeing these high-end immigrants, please let me know, because I'm not seeing them. Okay. By 2060, the United States is projected to grow by 79 million, previously 78 million people, from about 326 million today of 404 million. The population is projected to cross the 400 million threshold in 2058. In coming years, the rate at which the US population grows is expected to slow down. The population is projected to grow by an average of 2.3 million people per year until 2030. but that number is expected to decline to an average of 1.9 million per year between 2030 and 2040, and continue to fall to 1.6 million, previously 1.5 million per year, from 2040 to 2060. All right. The non-Hispanic white alone population is projected to shrink over the coming decades from 199 million. You ain't hardly that big. You ain't hardly that big. Ladies and gentlemen, the only reason why their numbers look like that is because of the immigrants and everybody that they're counting as white that we can clearly see with our eyes. They're not white at all. That number ain't hardly that big. When you go out in public, I'm sorry, white people do not look that plentiful out in public. You don't. Your numbers ain't hardly that big. Y'all can keep trying to act like that all you want. But I mean, it's almost like if there's one ant on the floor, they'll say there's 20 ants on the floor. That's how I feel when they are counting them. Man, get out of here. You ain't hardly that big. Okay. So 199 million, you'll fake out number in 2020 to 179 million in 2060. Even as the US population continues to grow, their decline is driven by fallen birth rates and a rising number of deaths over time among non-Hispanic whites as the population ages. In comparison, the white alone, so the white population alone, regardless of Hispanic origin, is projected to grow from about 253 million to 275 million over the same period. The two or more races population is projected to be the fastest growing over the next 7 decades, followed by single race Asians and Hispanics of any race. The causes of their growth are different. However, for Hispanics and people who are two or more races, their high growth rates are largely the results of high rates of natural increase given the relatively young age structures of these populations. For Asians, the driving force behind their growth is high net international migration. Okay. Children. By 2020, less than half of children in the United States are projected to be non-Hispanic white alone. 49.8% are projected, 70.0 million, previously 7.9 million children under the age of 18. In comparison of 72% of children are projected to be white alone, regardless of Hispanic origin. The share of children who are two or more races is projected to more than double in coming decades, from 5.3% today to 11.3% in 2060. The racial and ethnic composition of younger birth cohorts is expected to change more quickly than for older cohorts. In 2060, over 2/3 of children are projected to be non-Hispanic white alone, compared to over 1/2 of older adults. The 2017 national population projections are the third set of projections based on the 2010 census. This series update the prior series released in 2014, which was the first to incorporate separate assumptions about fertility of native-born and foreign-born women living in the United States, since the latter tend to be have higher fertility rates. The 2017 series extends that work to include assumptions about the mortality of native-born and foreign-born people. For the first time, the national population projections will account for the generally lower mortality rates and higher life expectancy of the foreign born, which allows us to better project for the effects of international migration on the population of the United States. The 2017 series also include projections of the racial and ethnic composition of children and older adults for the first time. Well, the way I see it, first of all, they're going to be out of here a lot sooner than 2060. You're going to probably hardly see white people by that time. Number two, like I said before, y'all ain't that big in America. You ain't hardly that big. You ain't hardly that big. People that are that size would never have to pad up their numbers. There's so much number padding going on in America. It ain't even funny. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, don't believe the hype about them being 199 million. They ain't hardly that big in America. It don't take a rocket scientist to see that. But they think if they keep putting these big numbers out, we're going to believe them. But the one thing I can tell you, those of us that are wide awake, we know the deal. They ain't that big in America. They haven't been for quite some time. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I will see you on the next video. And you know what else is proof, y'all? When I did that video on who's on social media, Black people outnumber white people on social media. Okay. Hispanics outnumber white people on social media. Asians outnumber white people on social media. Okay. So how are they the largest group, but they are the smallest on social media? I mean, in just internet use alone, the smallest group on the internet out of all of the other groups in this country. That should tell you a lot right there. That should tell you a lot. Some things you can fudge and some things you just simply can't fudge. White people are the fewest on the internet. Peace, family.